to Upstage Downstage with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing Dick Whittington. We saw this production at Theatre Royal Nottingham on the 15th of December 2023. TV favourite and panto legend Shane Ritchie leads the cast in the title role, and TV doctor and children's BAFTA winner Dr. Range will play Spirit of the Bells. This production is by the world's biggest pantomime producer, Crossroads Pantomimes. So Richard, what's it all about?
We join Dick Whittington as he seeks fame, fortune and happiness along his journey to become Lord Mayor. Can he outwit the evil rodent Queen Rat and free the city from her team of revolting rodents? Packed with all the traditional pantomime ingredients Nottingham audiences know to expect, this action-packed pantomime promises to be full of laugh-out-loud comedy, stunning scenery, beautiful costumes and plenty of boos and hisses.
Boo!
But first, our post-show opinion.
A pantomime paved with gold. Oh yes, it is.
Not just any old Dick.
So with all that said...
It's behind you!
Oh no, it isn't.
Oh yes, it is.
I think you'll find Dick Whittington is very much in front of me. So with all that said, let's
Set the scene.
Richard, here we are again, setting the scene for another show of Dick Whittington in Nottingham. Only this time, it's not one by the Playhouse, but it is one by...
Crossroads,
that's the one.
Yeah, Crossroads.
It is one by Crossroads Theatre Company. And they are the ones that did Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs last year.
They are.
Which we've also reviewed in one of our podcasts. Probably episode 37, 36 or 38, maybe.
Yeah, around that area.
I don't know. I have a feeling it might be. So would you like to set the scene? Or would you not like to set the scene?
Or would you like to set the scene?
Would anybody like to set the scene?
Oh, no, you wouldn't.
Oh, yes, you would. Speaking of would, let's talk about Dick Whittington.
I like your comedy pause there. It's almost like you've done this before.
I know.
Okay, so when you walk into Theatre Royal...
Do you mean the auditorium?
The auditorium, well, you know, it's got to say...
where they get the tickets and the drinks and pay
No,
for
when you
parking
walk
and
into
stuff.
the main auditorium. Let's go for it. We're just presented with a proscenium march of turrets and towers for a castle, just to show that you're obviously in London, really, because this is set in the city, set in London town. Yeah, and you've just got the...
I thought they were travelling to London. Or does it not travel somewhere?
No, because they get on a boat.
Oh, well, there we go then. He's on the
There was a
Thames.
boat in the second half.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah. He gets banished from London.
Oh, lucky for some.
That's because he that we're giving the story away.
Oh, yes. You've just reminded me of what the story is.
Yes, there we go.
It's a very complex plot.
Yeah, it's very deep. and all I can describe is you've got Dick Sack on stage.
Pardon?
On a big painted backdrop. So you've got just a tied up a bundle of Dick Whittington's
What have you got?
belongings, really. Which is the cliche thing. I
The
mean,
classic bag, isn't it?
yeah, the classic bag. I mean, this set is something that's been used before in another theatre somewhere else. So we're basically seeing Dick Whittington's set being used because Crossroads mix their productions across the country. So this Dick Whittington would have been in, I think it was in either Glasgow or...
I was going to say, I'm sure it was up north.
Because
Scotland.
Snow White is now in Glasgow, so it's almost like they've switched them over, you know. And don't blame them.
It's almost as if they've switched them over.
It's almost of it.
It's almost. It's not
almost
quite.
of it. They've gone to all this trouble to make different sets, and they're not just going to make a new one every year.
It's very clever.
It is, isn't it? It's very clever. But yeah, so that it's really, it doesn't show you the rest of the set because Obviously, that's part of the pantomime setting. Really, you don't see everything as you first walk in.
No, absolutely not. They like to keep things hidden and a spectacular.
And I suppose it's just one thing to say. It's all multicoloured. It's very bright. There's a lot of LED colour work in the sort of the edges and the sides of the stage. So
at the end of the day, it's panto, so it's colourful, it's glitzy, it's shiny, it's sparkly, it's joyful, and everything you would expect from a typical pantomime.
Yep.
Now, when they do raise that tab, we are then presented by a huge set of...
It's a village.
It's a village, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. A colourful village of all these little houses and stuff. I was actually going to say a circus, but that's the other one. It's Cinderella, isn't it? It's bloody circus.
Yeah, you've almost got the castle walls and the and the village in the background in the distance, really, and the frontages of shops.
Yep. And then we are introduced to all the characters. And what can you remember about this production that we saw, Richard? Nothing. Bit like me. Nothing.
I think really the opening scene was basically an introduction of all the characters, as a panto would do, and the first scene is the invasion of the rats, where they take over the city almost.
Yes, with the Queen.
With the Queen,
rat.
yeah. And Shane Ritchie plays the Buttons character, really, as in every production. There's always a silly jester character.
Well, he's Dick, isn't he?
Yeah. But he is Dick. But it's like
he's Dick, but he's the Buttons.
He is it's that silly character because you've got the dynamic between the dame and him.
Yeah, it's a character that you follow.
Yeah, it's the character that you follow throughout the production. That basically winds the audience up, winds the kids up, gets the kids jumping about, gets the kids happy, and
because we all know the story of Dick Whittington. Do we? do you know it? I can remember it, but then I'm thinking of the last one as well, the one in the playhouse.
Yeah,
it's all about looking after the money in the shop once he's
and looking after all the
employment,
the jewels in the
and then they get stolen,
and then Dick gets the blame.
Yeah, and then he's banished from the city.
And gets on a boat and ends up the other miles away from London, and then he has to trek back all the way back to London, and then defeats the Queen Rat.
Yeah. And save the day.
And then they have a party. And there's a wedding.
And he falls in love as well, doesn't he? With
he does.
The princess.
Yes, he does. Alice. He falls in love with Alice.
Yes.
And then they get married.
Oh, spiffing. Lovely. Now, we have already spoken about Dick Whittington when it was at the Nottingham Playhouse as well. And I think the only way we can do this one, because this is a second Dick Whittington that we're doing, is compare it to the Nottingham Playhouse one, their version of Dick Whittington, but also the Crossroads production that we did last year, which was Snow White as well, and see how that fared.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the only way we can go about reviewing this, because I think on the whole, I think you'd probably agree with me that this was actually a really good production.
Yes.
For Dick Whittington.
Yeah, there was a lot put into this one.
Yes.
And it did feel...
for me, this one felt more superior to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs because of the way they handled each individual role.
Yeah, exactly.
So with this one, we had Shane Ritchie taking the lead, cracking the jokes, doing a bit of improv and interacting with all the other characters, whereas the previous one, Snow White, had...
Faye from Steps.
No, I'm not thinking of her.
It was
Joe Pasquale, that's it,
yeah.
Joe Pasquale. Now, on that one, we found that Joe Pasquale was taking over the show a little bit too much, and like the fairy godmother, she was underused.
Yeah.
The cat.
But even Joe Pasquale's energy was low. We didn't feel that it was as strong as it could have been.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say is I didn't think Shane Ritchie did insert local place reference here, which is done in a lot of panto scripts. There's a lot of panto scripts where there's jokes.
He did
what I was going to say is though he did do it, but it didn't feel lazy.
Okay.
Because in I feel like in Joe's production, it was almost like insert reference to Nottingham but not do your homework or know a little
I see,
bit more
yeah.
in
And because
depth.
he did like St Anne's, he knew that was
He
a
knew
dodgy
it
area.
was, and then he'll throw Beeston in,
that's-
or then he'll say, but he didn't just do it without making it funny. He didn't just insert the name just because that's what you do in a panto. It felt like he'd done some research and he was having a laugh with the audience rather than just doing it to make the laugh cheap, really. And I think that's where I was going with that. It's more, it felt like there was more research because I felt like Shane, he's been in a lot of pantos and done a lot of them across the country, and you can see why. Because he does embrace the crowd well.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just use his EastEnders link to all the time to make the laughs, or he's got his own comedy and humour in there as well.
So in terms of, say, the writing of the actual script compared to the others, do we think it was improved?
I think this one was improved. It was a bit faster, and there was more for a lot of the characters on stage to do.
Yes.
I think there was more. The storyline was
Equally
stronger
balanced
than
between the
the Snow
characters.
White character, the Snow White story. To be fair,
Yeah. There's not really much we can go on in terms of the writing.
I suppose one of the things that I don't know if was written or was just something that Shane said, if it was written, it was a bit weird, was when Shane Ritchie kept acknowledging the dame as it's a man in a dress.
Yeah.
It got a bit too much. It was like, yeah, we know. You don't have to keep
That's
saying
the whole point of a dame.
It's less of a joke when you keep saying the joke. That's the only
Yeah,
joke that didn't work for me. It was like, we know that, but you don't have to keep pointing it out.
Yeah.
It was, that was the one that was a little bit like, yeah, you don't need to keep...
But that kind of humour, you know it's a man in a dress because it's the dame.
Exactly.
They're supposed to be sort of like dolled up yet ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
And butch or be completely...
They're meant to be older women anyway, in the sense of, as in... It's almost that...
It's a caricature.
It's a caricature,
of an old,
yeah. It's it's the
old woman,
mother figure.
Quite.
It's like in Witches. It's the same sort of thing. It's the same, but it just got me a little bit because I thought, yeah, it's getting old now, this joke. You don't need to keep saying it.
Yeah.
Maybe once as a nod, but then the rest don't use it. You don't need to,
If you're going to do those kind of jokes, you would do a joke where it was more to imply subtly.
Yeah, it's a bit like I've seen other pantos where they've done it cleverly, where I wouldn't say cleverly. It's more they've not necessarily stated the obvious, but what they've said is enough for the older audience to laugh because it's basically there's no way that man in the dress would ever ever happen. And
it's saying like, something completely absurd.
Yeah, and it's different. I think for me, it's like if you're going to say it, you say it different every time rather than saying the same line. And I think that's the bit that got me more than anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't a catchphrase, but it was turning into one. Yeah.
Yeah. If we move across to the direction here, really,
yeah,
I didn't feel anything was out of badly directed at all either. The use of space of the theatre quite well. There wasn't that much dancing either, was there?
No, they had dancers on stage.
Yeah, but it wasn't... I can't
wasn't
remember
really...
seeing a lot of... Remember in this one having a lot of dancers, whereas the other one, Snow White, I think they did have a lot more dancing going on.
Yeah, they did some in this in some of the village scenes, and then the rats danced at certain points, but there wasn't anything...
Yeah, the rats were dancing.
But they didn't do anything major. They did some bits where they did scenes with Shane Ritchie or the Sally the Cook where they did a few numbers, but they didn't really do anything.
Oh well, it was clearly forgettable for me then.
When Sally entered through the boxes and they did a dance with her and stuff like that. So.
Sally entered.
They built the pile of boxes and she came through the boxes.
Do you mean the cook?
Oh no, actually that was Shane.
Sorry, I was going to say Shane came through the boxes.
Yeah, but they did a whole number with the boxes before he appeared, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know if that was dancing or more
moving set
movement. It was really
moving set to music.
Yeah, that was more music and movement.
I think directing wise, I feel that the cast were comfortable on this stage, and if they've done it before in another venue, it's quite useful because you know the set that you're using. Because I know that Shane Ritchie was in this last year in Dick Whittington, so he knows the whole shtick really. He knows what he's doing,
Okay.
So
Why
he was
was
he was in the same production last year in a different venue, because that's when they moved the set round. They moved the cast with it.
Yeah.
So it was actually the same cast. I think, I don't know if it's all the same cast, but I know it was definitely Shane Ritchie.
He's the star of it.
So it's almost like once he's got a part as that person in that production, it's easier to leave him in that.
That's probably why they were advertising it.
Yeah.
During Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Exactly.
Because he was already...
he was already doing it somewhere else.
I see.
I suppose in a way it's like having a safe bet. They know that they've already got some of the main cast that know what they're doing.
Well, it's good. It's good as an actor, so you know you've got work next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, speaking of the actors, I think there's nothing else we can talk about for the writing and direction. But if we move along to the acting, we can then discuss all the other extra little bits and bobs.
Yeah.
In that segment, what'd you say?
Yeah.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're
here for the drama.
Right then, let's talk about the acting. Compared to last year's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs with Faye Tozer and Joe Pasquale, when I said previously that all the roles weren't evenly distributed, this show absolutely was, and it was nice to actually see that even Dr. Range, the spirit of Beau Bells, managed to be utilised quite a lot, whereas in the Snow White, the fairy godmother, she... I don't know why she was actually there at all. She had few lines. She just popped on, popped off. I didn't really move the story
it was
along.
Such a lazy part. Really.
That you didn't actually need that because Joe
there wasn't
Pasquale,
really any narration or anything.
No.
Really, you know.
Especially if you're going to allow Joe Pasquale to sort of like talk over everybody and just steal all the lines and just really
exactly
be a bit egotistical all over.
I think sometimes it's easy to sit back and let Joe Pasquale do it because maybe there's an element of that in the last years.
There could be, but I suppose if you're an actor being paid as well, maybe you still want to do your bit, but anyway, as I say, with Dr. Van's character, you actually did know that he was there. Yes, I suppose it helped him being a celebrity as well, so he managed to get that part. But then if we look along to the other characters, where we had Anne Smith as Queen Rat, she lived her part excellently, although she doubled up. She had two parts.
Yes.
What was the other part? She was the fairy, like a godmother as well, wasn't she? No.
That was the other one. That was Cinderella.
Was it?
Yeah, you're getting confused.
Oh, I am getting confused, aren't I?
Yeah, that was this one.
Right, yeah. Well, I know what Cinderella one is.
No, but she was the one that doubled up. She became the mum and the witch.
Yeah, that's right. And Emily Beth Harrington as Alice Fitzwarren. She had enough time on stage as well. She delivered excellently, as well as the kitty cat, Kenan Lewis Smith, and Ian Stewart Robertson as Sarah the cook.
Yeah, exactly.
So they all had their extra little... Well, they didn't have extra little bits, but they all had their time on the show to do what they needed to do.
And it's like Dr. Range as well. It's quite useful picking him because he's not just done Strictly, but he's done a lot of children's television. So he's got his own segment in like doing a doctor's thing as for children's TV. So that actually is really good for the kids in the audience because they do know him through doing that. It's not just about the Strictly audience with the adults. It's actually the children are watching him on CBBC and things quite a lot. So it's quite a good link, really. They'll see him more of a celebrity than Shane Ritchie.
Yes.
So that's quite a good
good
grab, really, to get somebody like that.
But I just thought it was a bit odd having Dr. Range in the pantomime because I'm just assuming he's just like a doctor, like Dr.
Exactly.
Hillary. Why on
exactly.
earth would like Dr. Hillary or whatever be on in a pantomime?
But then with the Strictly stuff and then the actors,
well, I didn't even know he did that. I don't really pay much attention to that.
No, that's why I did this dance break in the second half. That was the whole.
Well, I get that now. Yes, however, once I saw him act, I thought, "Oh, you've done this before, haven't you?"
And I'm sure he was in the last one with Shane Ritchie, I think, or he was in another one of a similar part of the tour somewhere else.
Yeah, so I thought he quite liked the glitz and the glamour and the makeup and stuff going on.
It's almost like he
enjoyed that. You could tell.
He was used to it.
Yeah, and some other notable performances would also be Ian Stewart Robertson as Sarah the cook.
Yeah, definitely.
Because whereas Snow White's dame wasn't as standoutish because of, as I say, Joe Pasquale taking that bit of role.
And it also felt like a secondary role in the last panto, in the last version. Snow White, it was a weirdly written production anyway, but it did feel like it was an underwritten part for me
for the dame.
For the dame in Snow White, it was a bit pointless. Whereas the dame really had a character. And
you actually felt the presence of this
Sarah the cook was the Sarah the cook you expected, and that's important.
Now, if we compare this to Nottingham's Dick Whittington, obviously the dame in that production would have had a bigger role.
Yes, definitely.
Because none of them are so-called celebrities.
No.
I mean, they're well known within the community.
Yeah, definitely.
Which you'd know.
Yeah, but Sarah the cook is actually in that production was more prominent.
Yes.
In even compared to this, in a way.
Yes.
And that was, and then it was very obvious that. But I think that's a production that's very script heavy in a good way in some ways compared to this, which is quite a loose script. This version, but the people on stage all had enough to do this time.
But I think when it comes to the dame, I think I might stick my neck out and say that in a normal pantomime, you latch onto the dame.
Yes.
Because they're the ones that either drive the production forward or the ones you sort of like...
Well, they're part narrator and they're part stop and start the production, aren't they?
Yeah. It would be interesting to see a pantomime by Crossroads, for example, where they put a celebrity in the dame position and see how far advanced that becomes. Would it be similar to the Nottingham pantomime?
Yeah, I mean, the main one to talk about is the Palladium. That is a Crossroads panto. So that big version, the one they're doing Peter Pan in, that has got celebrities in as the dame. But that we haven't seen that to compare. But that's but that has got for example, even Jennifer Saunders is playing Hook, and you've got those that's where you'd see the references to see if it's a different style of panto, because it's a bit like when Biggins is in something, he stands out over everybody because of his panto what he can do. But like you say, it would be interesting to see, because I suppose over time we've known a lot of panto dames that have become famous for being panto dames. At the moment, locally, it doesn't seem like there is as many that you remember the same as you would, say, the Danny LaRue's or the Christopher Biggins style, and Julian Clary and stuff like that. You don't necessarily see that now locally. It's more about the main character, as in Buttons, it's interesting.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how evenly they distribute the jokes and the stage time to all the other characters.
Yeah, definitely.
I think is where I was sort of more going to, because if you just had a pantomime dame that was a celebrity and it wasn't the kind of Buttons or Dick Whittington role or whatever, or the fairy, to see how would it be as interesting or boring because you've only got, say, like if it was Queen Rat and the dame as two celebrities, would the story still go along?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, because you haven't got the famous person being Dick, or you haven't got...
Because really, your dame and your Buttons character, for example, are your two that are your jesters. They're your comedy makers in the production. So you've got to have two strong characters, even if they're not famous. They need to almost mess up. They're the ones that make people laugh on stage and off stage. They're the ones that break the seriousness.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Imagine if they had Danny John Jules as a kitty cat.
Yeah,
and he did it like Red Dwarf.
Yeah,
cat from Red Dwarf. That would change the whole aspect, because the cat in this Crossroads version I don't remember him speaking at all.
Well, it was an unspoken role, but it was a bit weird.
It was movement.
Yeah.
But the movement and the cat in this one was far better than the cat in the Nottingham Playhouse one of last year.
Yeah, although...
Because that was quite irritating.
I still think it was underwritten not to give that part a spoken bit, even if it was when nobody was around. When the rest of the cast was off, that's the point where the cat spoke. It was like they could have sent it up as made it more of a character than you've just got this cat that's doing interpretive dance, really.
Yeah.
You don't really know. You could have given that cat role something that would have made the audience laugh in the quiet times or the bits where you needed to send it up even more.
Yeah.
The unexpected, really. You could have had a little subplot that would have been quite funny, really, with that. It just felt wasted.
And also, I think, actually, I'm kind of like picturing Danny John Jules being the cat now from Red Dwarf in this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking all the times where he could be like being asked to mind the shop or whatever, or do
exactly.
something, and he's there with the mirror looking at himself or whatever.
Yeah, he could be
chasing something that had got nothing to do.
They could
with
they could have even had a torchlight on stage, and the cat could have followed it round it was like, it could have been anything, even if it was Queen Rat to get the cat away from the area. Just start. It could have just been silly. Get a laser pointer out just to and I think that was the low bit for me. Where it's like, exactly. It just feels. It felt like they'd underwritten it. It's there for Dick Whittington having a cat, but the cat could have had a role.
Yeah, I mean, whilst I've said that they all got even distribution, let's not forget that he did have more physical things to do in the pantomime. But I think there's, like we say, there are other ways you can do that cat.
And it could have been little things that made the audience, the kids laugh, or it could have been something silly. Because sometimes something silly or funny can just be enough to give the kids a bit of a chuckle. Because there was some moments where it was a bit quiet because it was like we're waiting for something else to happen rather than.
Because even in the Nottingham Playhouse production of this last year with the cat, that was slightly underused. I
think they did one number, didn't they, where they did a sing, where the cat did sing at some point, but I think it wasn't as, it could have been more. It's like a forgotten character that could have work.
Could have a lot more. Yeah, definitely. Other than that, what do you think about the other ones, other characters? I must say, I thought the Queen Rat, Anne Smith, was just fantastic as this one. Anne Smith was great. The stage presence of that one.
Yeah, definitely. Emily Beth Harrington was good. The only issue I would have is there was certain moments where it's not really a technical issue to talk about massively, but her mic kept dropping out, but also not picking her up. So I don't know if it was throwing a voice or it was like, and it felt a little dipped because of that. But
did you notice on last year's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the same character,
exactly that
issue, even though that woman was a stand-in.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever she went to sing, like the princesses, whenever they start singing their soft voices,
it was just
you can't hear them.
It was almost like reliance on the mic to pick you up, but actually you've got to project.
You need to project,
and it just doesn't. You can't rely on just a microphone to pick that voice up. I think you've got to almost perform if there was no mics there, so you can still, and I think that's where the energy dropped a little bit for me with Alice's role, because I do think that dropped because of that.
Yeah,
a little bit.
No, I agree with that one. Now, whilst we've spoken about all the characters, is there anything else you want to say about the Shane Ritchie role, the Dick Whittington?
I just think he did a good job, to be fair. I think, he played the character we expected. I mean, he was a little bit older than he probably should have been to be Dick Whittington.
Well, the publicity stills make him look very much photoshopped.
There's no wrinkles on that face.
But he isn't.
But I think he's proved his worth because I was a little bit apprehensive seeing him do panto, because I've seen some of the big names do those roles, and he stood the test of time to the sort of Brian Connolly's. I've seen Ken Dodd in panto and things like, and the ones that have played Buttons where they've done it for years and they know that role. And I always go back to Buttons, but that is the role that he was playing as Dick, really. And it's causing that chaos and knowing to push the cast a little bit further, or it's the ad-libbing that he was really good at. And that's not something you learn overnight. You can't play with them and then pull it back and carry on. A little bit like that scene that where it's a classic panto scene where you have all those different music tracks, and you have to ad lib that. You have to put different words in, and then have another bit with another music, with another snippet of a song, and it's all comedy. If you don't do that right, it just looks rubbish.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because they did it in the Snow White, didn't they? And I
Yeah.
thought that was quite good, and I didn't realise it was probably something that the Crossroads
And also the
thing
Chinese
did.
whispers scene. That was brilliant as well. Where
Oh,
he
that's
had to
hilarious, wasn't it?
Where he had to keep running across and doing basically an ever increasing long paragraph poem to
repetition of
repetition.
alliterating
words,
yeah,
and he had to keep going back and feeding the message back
to Sarah
and
the cook.
every time you were laughing because you knew it was going to get harder until one of them broke. It was a competition for them on stage, really.
Yeah,
but you know,
it was engaging. That
yeah,
was,
definitely.
Yeah.
You know,
just like the scene. I mean, we're talking about scenes now, but Shane Ritchie was a very big part of this.
Yeah.
When they did, if I wasn't in a panto, what else would I do? And I don't know if it was the same one in this one or something different.
There's 12 Days of Christmas in this one.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, it was 12 days. It was Christmas.
Well, it was 12 days of panto.
12 days of panto. That's it. Yeah, and they all did something different, didn't they?
Yeah.
And this is a scene where everything sort of like went apart.
Yeah. And it's basically troublemaking between each other, really, because they've got to do the whole thing.
And because you've got Dr. Range and Shane Ritchie, you've got them two sort of like haggling between themselves as to who can sort of like bring the house down the most.
Exactly.
Started with Dr. Range with the Finding Nemo, and then it was two Golden Smiths, apples or something.
Granny Smiths.
Granny Smiths. And then obviously the others come out as well.
Yeah, and there was more items. And
yeah. But then when it got to the 5 golden rings, it's like Dr. Range was throwing this huge rope filled with rubber rings into the audience, and presumably it was as if it was he did it by accident, that he lost them all in the audience, which them kind of things are planned.
Yeah, exactly.
So then Shane Ritchie went off into the audience, had a bit of a banter with them to get them back, and then they did it again, and then Dr. Range lost them in the audience again, so we had to repeat that again. And as it kept building up into the 12 different things, with obviously you got Sarah the cook and the Queen Mat and the Alice.
Alice,
Alice and stuff. One bit was where Shane Ritchie grabbed the fake light.
Yeah, exactly.
And that came off, like he broke it as well, just because he was hiding this Nemo thing for Dr. Range to find. And it broke.
And then he broke the set,
stage. And then, he was walking backwards and then the whole thing collapsed. Now, the thing is, in pantos, they have those things that go wrong.
Yes.
Specifically
always.
To get you in on it and make it more funny. But it would have all been rehearsed, because what we saw when Shane Ritchie walked into the tab.
Yeah, so basically they threw something right at the end. They threw something for Shane Ritchie to catch.
Yeah, and he
fell backwards.
He fell backwards. The tab came down, and then we saw all of the rats
and crew
members all backstage as if they were getting in and out of costume,
trying to do a set change.
Yeah, looking at that, and obviously it's fake, because by the next scene they're not even there at all.
No, and they needed that scene ready for the next one, but it was a way to do it in a funny way, and actually they pulled it off, because it's not easy to pull that off, and it did come out of nowhere. But also Shane actually put effort into, he didn't just stage fall into that curtain. He knew that if he threw himself at it and it comes down, it's going to brace his weight, and actually it was really funnily done. He just dragged the whole tab down with him. And it worked really well, and then he still sent it up even more by being stuck behind the gauze, and
And this happened in the second act.
It did, yeah.
And the only reason why they do stuff like this, and also the 12 Days of Christmas song, it's just padding.
It is.
It's a way of just padding out the show.
And they're my favourite bits. To be fair, they're the funny bits.
The plot is very thin.
Yeah, it is. I mean, really, that scene is it's always a bit of a weird scene, because basically you've been on a boat, you get chucked off the boat, you've got to go back on the boat. That's really all the scene's about.
Yeah.
But to make it something, because in other scenes that last year's production we saw at Nottingham Playhouse, that was done with UVs and fish swimming around underwater.
Yes.
Whereas this one was just done with the 12 Days of Panto, where you're underwater doing things, but that's really where each different panto will do a different thing to pass time, really.
But they're all generic and like another padding scene, which they didn't do in this one, but they would have done elsewhere, is when they all get tired after walking in the woods and they sit down on this log.
Yeah.
Again, it's those kind of scenes are just there for padding and comedy effect, really. Now, as we're still on the actors, Shall we now move across to the technical aspect of this? Because I think there's a few technical bits we could discuss.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to add in one of the jokes that I did actually quite enjoy about what that Shane Ritchie said.
Yeah.
And I've always thought this when he said, if you enjoy this,
Yeah.
I've been Shane Ritchie, and if you didn't, I've been Bradley Walsh.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
I
exactly.
always get them confused as well.
I know.
Also, you brought up the other guy as well who said does panto.
Oh, Brian Connolly.
Brian Connolly, yeah, I always get them.
Yeah, because they're all very similar,
all
same age men.
Yeah.
They're all the same sort of comedians.
Ish looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all that kind of thing.
It's like even going back, Russ Abbott was the same because he used to do this role. He's been in. I've seen him in panto. So they're all. There's a certain like.
I always used to get Russ Abbott and Brian Connolly mixed up.
Yeah, it's all, and then it moves on to these. So Yeah.
There we go. But yeah, there was quite a few good jokes in this one.
Yeah.
Very much more entertaining than the actual Snow White.
Oh,
that we had. Yet, obviously,
pulls apart in my view.
The thing is, with Snow White, you had Fade Tozier. Now, whilst she was a brilliant Wicked Witch, that was a Wicked Witch.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but
she when she performed the songs, you could tell. Obviously, she's a singer, so she does what she did best, and that was brilliant for that. It's just unfortunate that
I think the writing let it down the previous.
Yeah, that was really naff.
It was a pointless Snow White. Really, it just felt low compared to other versions.
Definitely, and if we compare this for the acting to the other Dick Whittington that we've done,
I'd say it's on par.
I'd say it was on par as well. Yeah. I'm always probably going to favour the Dame from the Nottingham one.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Because there's more to
there's more strength in that Dame,
Yeah. And obviously these kind of dames that aren't celebrities, you just see them for the great costumes that they do wear.
Definitely.
But the Playhouse ones always also do, when they make their own costumes, really good.
They don't feel low.
And they always have changes.
Quality.
They have as many changes as these kind of dames do as well, even though they're probably more on a budget. So there we are.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the Tech is this?
Now then, Richard, I'm going to ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to know is, when Shane went flying into the tab,
how did they do that?
How do they make it
come
so down
basically,
without being like...
what you've got what are called quick clips on the top of the tabs, where you can basically lock a piece of scenery on and it'll hold firmly.
A bit like the curtain rails with clips.
Yeah, but similar. But they're actually they're based on weight. So when they're weighted or in contact, you can also have there's a few different ways, but you can have magnet points where you have strong electromagnets that hold it up, and then they can release it by pressing it, and it will just drop.
Yeah.
But there's also quick clips that lock over like a scaffold bar or a bar, and when you pull the opposite, you pull string on the back of it, it'll release.
Yeah.
Quickly. So it depends which ones they've used, because obviously I've not been on the stage. So, but it'll be something on those lines where basically there's a quick release at the top across the top tab.
Yeah.
It'll hold it until it's needed. But when they catch something, or when there's probably more to it than what it looks like. As in, it wouldn't just be Shane pulling it down, because the whole tab came down.
Would it be something like, would one of the tabs be magnetically touched to the floor so he could step on it to give the weight on?
They'd be weighted. The floor tab would be weighted, so there'd be chains in the bottom anyway.
Yeah, so
that would
for him to be able to walk into it and break it.
But they would have practiced it, because they'd have they wouldn't want to rip it, because they wouldn't want him to fall into it and not be able to use it again. Because if you're using it for a month and a half, you need to be able to do it every night the same. So it's got to be done right. But there would have been people releasing something, or there'd have been a release. But it was done well, because you wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
It looked like he did it rather than
And at the time when we were watching it, I was just thinking, what the hell's going on there?
Yeah,
I forgot,
Yeah.
obviously, because it's been a while since I've watched. Well, it's been a year, obviously, since I've watched a pantomime.
Yeah.
And I just completely forgot that they had those kind of fake things are going wrong, we're ad-libbing this isn't right kind of
Yeah,
scenarios.
because you think the play that goes
I thought it
wrong
was
is the
actually
only one
happening.
that does stuff like that, but actually...
Well, I've never actually... We need to go and see that.
Yeah, we
actually,
do. But what I mean is, do you think that that
noises are-
production
yeah.
is the only one that does fake false things that happen? And actually, a lot of pantos and a lot of these sort
the
of
audio
productions do
really
that.
is
You know,
padding, but
it is.
I just completely forgot it in the moment.
It's a bit like noises off, isn't it? There's things set up to fail. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm glad I asked that, just in case people need to know
There you go.
how they did that.
I mean, the other couple of things I'd like to talk about. We haven't talked about the rat, the big king
No,
rat.
yes, I was going to come to that. No, well, let's come to that now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so before I completely forget, just to set the scene, this was the very first scene with when the Queen when Anne Smith came out as the Queen Rat. She comes out and then she's it was something about having to call on the great King Rat, shall we say. And then he come out and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. You know, once the actual tab came up and this giant huge rat, they literally, it was massive. It was the size of a bloody double-decker bus.
It was, yeah.
This thing coming out.
Cliche.
But it was massive. Yeah. And lo and behold, it went out and into the audience.
Did you?
Now.
But.
Oh, a but?
Before we move on to the next bit, I know what Stephen wants to talk about.
Not necessarily.
I would say that it was wasted.
Yes.
Because we saw it once, and that was it.
At the very beginning.
And that was it. It was like this big domineering rat is going to come on stage, and then when you have the battle in the second half with the rats to fight back against the rats, you never see it again. So it's like, what's the point? If we'd have brought it back for the final fight scene, it'd have been better, because this just felt like it was great, it was impressive, but it was that early that it didn't matter then.
Yes, it would have been more impressive had it been in the second act.
Yeah.
And came in. Because you knew there was like a beast at the end.
Yeah.
But as you say, like at the beginning, it's like, yeah, great, okay. And then where was it at the end of it?
Exactly.
Now, we can now move over to how it was done. Mm-hmm. Oh, we might get two on this one.
Maybe.
How did they do that?
How did they do both of that?
How did they do that?
Well, it's really a cantilevered set piece on wheels. As in, there's, you know, it's...
I can only picture like a little, not a mini digger, but something with
it's still, it's almost like it's pretty much a cherry picker
with an arm
coming out, or and it's got hydraulics in it that basically mean they can wheel it out. Obviously, you're not going to hear the reversing beeps or anything like that. They'll have stripped it of all of those noises.
Imagine if they kept that on, right, and then out got these through, like orange light bulbs at the back of the King Rat, as it reverses, white lights. You know, that would be quite funny.
And obviously, the reason they didn't obviously use it in the second half is because the rat was replaced by a double-decker bus, quite cleverly.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
So that's why the rat disappeared, because Dick Whittington had to travel magically back to London on a double-decker bus before the interval.
Now the thing is, I completely forgot about this, and the fact that I said it was like it wasn't spoilers or anything like that. No. I wasn't suggesting anything.
You were smart, smooth there.
Yeah, but it was so well. Anyway, so yes, they got the double decker on this thing, and that actually came further into the audience. Yeah, that was quite impressive.
Yeah, that was before the but interestingly, that also happened in Snow White.
Yes,
we had a car that came into the audience.
I was going to say that also happened in Snow White. Yeah.
So I think it's getting a little bit old in the sense of it's the same effect, even though it's a different vehicle. It gets a little.
And what I will say now is spoilers. Yeah. It happens in Cinderella.
Yeah.
In the next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're, yes, it's probably good a few years ago, but now it's starting to get a little bit like.
Did it not all stem from Back to the Future?
Back to the Future did it, and it happens in the middle of that production, and I think people have seen the technology used now, and they just want to do it again, and I think that's what it gets a little bit predictable when you've seen it more than once, and I think that doesn't help.
No. What other technical things could you tell me? What do you think about the lighting and the sound?
I mean, lighting-wise, it's as bright as a button. I mean, the whole point is it's meant to be sickly sweet in colour. You know, that's a panto for you, and that worked.
Cheerful, jolly.
I would say that I'm pleased this one didn't have any digital screens or anything to go with some of the stuff, because Snow White last year it was just not.
Oh, that mirror, you mean?
The mirror that they used, that was an extra screen that appeared and took a long time
to rotate
and rotate the same way. I think it was nice, refreshing not to have any of that. It was nice to just have a panto stage with characters and you know, it was actually,
yes, I agree.
It didn't need that extra.
Because you could just get on with the plot then.
Yeah, and I think that's what
like
it is. There's nothing that slows it down. You're not waiting for something.
Slowed Snow White down was Faye just stood around waiting for this mirror to spin around.
Exactly. And I think people forget that panto is the same as a farce. It's the same as any comedy-based production. It's got to be quick, it's got to be fast, it's got to be fun. And if it isn't any of those, if something slows it down...
You sounded like Desiree then.
I know I did, didn't I?
You got to be bold, you got to be hung.
And
I don't know the rest of the lyrics.
But yeah, I think it doesn't help. Anything that slows a panto down, an audience gets bored quick, because you've got a very mixed age audience, but you've also got an audience that don't go to theatre a lot of the time.
And not just that, you've also got an audience that are children, and their attention span, they'll be opening their crisp packets and sweets and all sorts.
Well, so will some of the parents, because some of the parents don't go to theatres.
They're
just as get distracted very quickly, and the phones will come out. Yeah.
Oh God.
And and that's why you can't afford for anything to slow anything down, because you've got to keep it fast paced. Yes, you know. And it's easy to use fillers like special effects to fill 10 minutes of a production, but sometimes it's nice to not have that, and I think that's what this felt. It felt more fast paced because of that.
Yes,
you know, yes, you had the odd element, but it wasn't anything major.
I think the only thing that did slow it down was a bit of the padding with the whole 12 Days of Christmas thing, because once you chuck the rings in the audience once, it's funny, you get them back. I think doing it again or a third time, I think they only did it twice. But it just got, you know, I'm going to roll my eyes again. You know, come on now.
I think as well, they probably used a few too many in this version. They're padding them out in probably too many times. You know, if you just do that scene right and do it once, you don't need to do all that.
Well, because of the whole song, and they had to do it fast, you couldn't really hear them actually doing it, because they were arsing about, chucking things up, lifting it up, putting it down. And I know it's supposed to be funny and like that, but it was as if there was no attempt.
You still need to hear
higher.
it, and you still need to have fun. You still need to sing it properly, and you know.
10 loaves of what? Three lots of what?
Yeah.
You know, it did get what's it? Anyway, that's neither here nor there for the technical bit, but I don't know what else there is to mention for the technical.
I think sound-wise, the sound effects were good when they did the funny bits with the little snippets of sound, and and those bits, you know, music snippets and stuff like that. You know, that was well rehearsed, and I think that was nice to see, because it is easy to throw those scenes away. You've got to be quick and fast and make them fun.
You gotta be bold.
Doing it again.
You gotta be wiser. All right, Desiree.
Yeah, so that's that for me is
key?
It's obvious that, well, it's key, but it's obvious that they'd spent time doing it, you know.
Obviously.
But it may be that they've used that exact same thing in the last year's panto when he was up north, because it wouldn't have mattered.
No, quite right.
And now it's time for our Rewind Rewatch.
Richard, which part of this production would you like to rewind and watch again?
You know, for me, it was the Chinese whispers scene. Because that was just it was, even though it was a padding filler, it was just funny. I just like that bit. I mean, I wouldn't want to watch the whole thing again, to be fair.
I wouldn't watch it again. I mean, I'd tell people to go watch it.
Yeah.
However, I think any scene with Anne Smith as Queen Rat, if she's singing or, you know, coming against one of the others, because I actually quite liked her.
Yeah.
You know, I thought she was quite entertaining, and she was very, she drew your attention, I should say, really. Because I think, I mean, I like all the comedy bits, but because there were padding and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just, so that's what I'll say again. Just anything with the Queen Rat in. and Smith.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say,
Call this a show? Now then, summary.
Summara.
Summary.
I think it was a good panto, and it harked back to some of the classic ones I've seen in my life, really. And I think it was refreshing to see that, and there are some well written pantos out there, because even though the plot's loose, it was still funny.
Yeah. I feel for this one, I feel like I've overdosed on Dick Whittington, and sorry, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't laugh at my own jokes.
Well, you're a funny guy.
Yeah. So I've seen 2 Dicks now, and within the space of a year.
Look at you.
And I've overdosed on them. And this one was entertaining, just as much as the other one. And I'll definitely, I'd say that this is quite a good crowd pleaser as well.
Yeah. Much
better than the Snow White.
Yeah, totally.
But I think now I've seen 2 versions of it, 2 different companies doing
versions.
it. 2 different theatre productions of it, as well as the same company doing 2 different kind of pantos. I think this one was the better one.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, but I think this is it for me now. I don't need to see Dick Whittington again. I get the plot. I get it. There's only so much I can get out of it, and I don't think I want to get any more out of it. So next pantos I'll see more of, all the old ones, the other ones. I mean, Jack of the Beanstalk and Beauty and the Beast. Is Beauty and the Beast actually?
Yeah.
Is it? Is it a panto? Is it a proper panto?
It
or is it just a Disney panto?
No, it's a proper panto.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
There's a beast everywhere.
Or Aladdin. Is there Aladdin?
There is Aladdin, yeah.
I don't know. I never felt anything. And on that bombshell, we shall move to the scores.
Yeah.
Scores then, please, Richard, for Dick Whittington. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the funniest panto Sarah the cook could have cooked up, and 1 being a show even the kitty cat could have coughed up. What's it going to be?
I'll go for a 7 out of 10.
Ooh. Okay.
Down the middle. It was good. It wasn't breathtaking, but it was good.
Okay. I mean, for a panto, I thought it was better than most, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to give it a nice big fat round 8.
Get you.
Get me, indeed, yes. A nice round 8. Chunky 8. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
I'll give it a pleasant applause.
All right. That's all right, isn't it? Yeah. I'm going to give it a pleasant applause as well. Because it was. All right. So there we are. That's our discussion of Dick Whittington. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
and opinions
on many theatrical delights in future episodes.
If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage.
One, two, three.
Are we ready to go straight away?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Would you like me to speak now? I could speak for eternity. Are you ready for my close-up? Oh yes, it's a podcast.
I think that's enough of your vulgarities.
My vulgarity. Are we recording? Can you
We
hear
are.
me now?
We are recording.
Oh good. Now let's talk about Dick. This production is bollocks. I almost did it so well there.
This action-packed pantomime promises to be full laugh. Why is there that in there? Who wrote this?
Oh, I don't know.
This action-packed pantomime promises to be full of... We join Dick Whittington as he seeks fame and fortune. Sorry.
Already you've cocked up.
Well, it's about dicks. We join Dick
Stop
Whittington.
dicking about.
We join Dick Whittington.
Come on, Dick, sort it out.
We join Dick Whittington as he seeks fame, fortune, and happiness, journeying to become Lord Mayor. Journeying. That's such a weird.
Journeying.
Can I say on his journey?
You can say what you like, just get it out.
It doesn't sound right, does it?
Well, get it out.
Oh, I do love a good journey.
Journeying.
We join Dick Whittington as he seeks fame, fortune, and happiness.
What's he seeking? Happiness.
It's the greatest gift that I possess.
Oh, happiness. Excuse me.
Oh, we join Dick Whittington as he seeks... I'm going to mute you in a minute. We join Dick Whittington as he seeks fame, fortune, and happiness on his journey to become Lord Mayor. Can he outwit Can he outwit the evil rodent queen rat that... Oh god, this one's going to be hard.
That's what she said.
Oh, the double entendres.
Where did Dick go? Come on, tell us about it.
Dick's hiding.
Where's he gone?
He's in the tunnel.
What's he doing there? He's looking for happiness.
Oh,
choking
the
on my
actual
tea.
production.
Richard, I said all that in one.
You did it! Not like you.
Oh, hurrah!
Hurrah!